Welcome, everybody. We are talking to the panelists of Massachusetts Escape Rooms. So this panel is Escape Rooms and Immersive Entertainment. So we're going to start on this side. I'm going to have each panelist introduce themselves, their business name, their business location, and their favorite cookie.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff Boyer. I'm the chief joy instigator over at Room Escapers in downtown Boston. Tough choice. I love snickerdoodles, but I'm going to have to go with the oatmeal raisin.
We're starting to feel like there's some judgment about the oatmeal raisin.
I stand by my statement.
Hi guys, I'm Jason. I'm from Trapology Boston, downtown Boston, and oatmeal chocolate chip, definitely.
All right, try to top that. My name is Skip Dillon. I own Wicked Amusements, which is a nationwide escape game production company, as well as Wicked Escapes, which is just north of Boston, and that's a retail escape game location. And I'm going to go with soft oatmeal Pepperidge Farm is my cookie of choice.
There's an oatmeal theme.
Oatmeal, man.
Keeps it
Just
regular.
disgruntled crowd here for the oatmeal.
They're tired
Like,
of
I don't
oatmeal.
care what this guy knows about escape rooms.
I'm
not
out of
listening.
here.
I'm Saul Gordon. I own North Shore Escape outside of in Woburn, Massachusetts. I'm not really a huge cookie fan. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from everybody.
Boo
Worse
this
than
man.
the oatmeal, man.
If I had to choose, it would probably be macadamia nut. Is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
Yes. If not, make it, because I'll probably
Maybe you
buy
can
it.
put some white chocolate in there.
No. I'm not a cookie guy. I was not informed there would be a cookie question, by the way. This is
You
completely
would have
off the
voted
cuff.
against it.
Okay, I'm Mike Paquin from Live Action Escapes in Worcester, Massachusetts. My favorite cookie, I'd say homemade peanut butter.
Peanut butter fans.
I'm Audrey Chow. I'm the owner and designer of Curious Escape Rooms in Fitchburg. Thank you. And I'm going to go with a brand and choose raspberry chocolate Milano cookies.
So there we have it. We've got all of our favorite cookies out of the way, so that's solid. So what we're going to talk about today are escape room industry topics. We'll be talking about game design concepts. We're also going to be talking about just immersive entertainment in general. What we are not going to talk about today is how to open Escape Room 101. If you do have those questions about fire codes and hiring and things of that sort, feel free to pick the most attractive person up here and talk to them after this panel. We good? Let's see. So I have started polling around the audience. So I've got a couple questions lined up, but after I run out of questions over here, what we're going to do is we're going to open up to you guys. So there's a microphone there. So if you guys want to start kind of thinking about topics for questions, or things you want to ask these guys, or why oatmeal, or why not cookies, things of that sort, that's where you want to be. We've also gotten a situation where if these guys talk too long, my friend Tina over here has a very, very interesting sign, if you could hold that up. So if at any time you agree, feel free to say, "Hey, Tina," and she'll know. Cool? All right, so question number one. What to you guys makes an escape room immersive? How do you guys think about immersion when you guys are designing your own escape rooms? To anybody.
For me, it's kind of the little things. All the little things add up that can get overlooked. Sound is a big one, having a good soundtrack in there. Just the little things all add up to one immersive experience.
I think the idea of just trying to make it as realistic as possible, so creating not only a really awesome immersive set, but again, sound, and I think especially with escape rooms, having those relevant puzzles, so you're interacting with objects and props and puzzles that are relevant to the set that you're in, and sort of help forward that storyline to keep the suspense going. I think it's all little pieces that add up to really make the full experience immersive.
My team has a tendency to take our cues primarily from other forms of entertainment media, because ultimately in an escape room it's great. If you beat it, awesome. If you lose, that's okay. But everybody wants to be entertained inside. So we draw from video games, we draw from television, from movies, and we take our cues there because reality, a lot of times, is not as interesting as the Hollywood presentation of reality, right? If you see a laboratory set, you expect to have, cool green lights and blue colors and things like that you see in any lab that's on a television show or a movie. But if you go into an actual laboratory, it's a very sterile environment and it's not nearly as dynamic. So we make sure that we're making every environment fun and kind of theme parkish, if you will, when they go into play any of our designs.
Yeah, it's important to focus on all 5 senses as well. I do agree with what they said, but you also, again, with what Jason said as well, is keeping all the puzzles on theme as well. If you are walking into a room and it's supposed to be the 1820s and there's a huge high def television on the wall, it kind of breaks the immersion. It kind of takes you out of that. So the most creative games are the ones that balance all of that together.
Also, think about character and story. Sorry, you paused. I didn't know if you were gonna go. You'll be next. But yeah, you want create a world of even if there's not actually a character that is written in it, having an idea of who lives here or who consumes this place normally, so you kind of feel that you're kind of creeping into someone else's place or the world. And if you choose a theme, going all in on the theme, we created the 90s video store, so it's all the 90s. It's just a huge nostalgia kick, and you actually have to refocus yourself. No, I'm here to solve puzzles, not to stare at the Land Before Time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One of the biggest aspects of creating an escape room for us is to actually make it so you don't know you're entering an escape room environment. We want you to enter the environment that we're going to produce for you without you realizing that you're actually in an escape room to experience a game. And once we create that sense, that level of immersiveness, it definitely opens up for a huge creative aspect and whatever comes out of all of our heads, really.
Cool, thanks guys. Another question we had in this general direction was when you are thinking about creating your puzzles, you've got storyline, you've got characters, you've got a lot of development going on. If you strip all that away and just have puzzles, as you guys develop more and more escape games, how do you keep creating innovative, original puzzles?
We don't.
Thank you.
There are probably I know I'm going to incur the wrath of some of the other folks on stage here. There are a limited number of puzzle types that are out there that are fun to interact with, and that's the reason that in gaming, video games, tabletop games, you see the same types of mechanics that are familiar to you with new spins on them repeated over and over again. So we usually end up focusing on 2 big things when we design rooms over at Wicked. One, are they coming in and getting to do cool stuff while they're inside the room? And 2, are cool things happening because of whatever that stuff was that they did? And then we backfill the puzzle logic from there, because you've got, all right, this puzzle might involve you doing this in this sequence, and this puzzle might involve you simultaneously doing this and this and this somewhere else, and there are a couple other core variations that you have to the puzzle logic inside a particular game. And then it's really a matter of what type of clue content, what type of individual puzzle props and elements and awesome stuff are they able to interact with, right? Push buttons, arcade buttons in a sequence is not too thrilling, but you can take that same puzzle, and if you're inside a Victorian Frankenstein laboratory and you're throwing giant, massive knife switches in sequence and running from wall to wall to do that, all of a sudden that becomes a really fun thing to do. So that's our general design philosophy, and now I'll kick it over to these guys who might have a different take.
I'm going to somewhat disagree just a little bit. I think that's definitely part of it. That kind of leads towards the design and creating that really immersive environment, what you perceive to be a reality. The other part of it, I think, is creating a diverse puzzle set, a set of puzzles where a team can go in. I mean, none of our rooms can be solved by a single person. You need to work as a team. You need communication. So So there is a lot to be said for creating a diverse set of puzzles where everybody in your team can contribute in one way. They have a strength that nobody else really does have to successfully complete the rooms. I have to say, with regards to designing as well, we learn a lot from watching our own customers come in and play. Our first one we built, we put together a really solid set of puzzles, and then seeing how they interacted with those puzzles and how we figured out how we could change some things, create new puzzles from the way people behaved and interacted, but with what we already had in the rooms. And that's kind of how we evolved to the next set of puzzles and the next set of puzzles. So they're all still very different, but we did learn a lot, and we still continue to learn a lot by watching our customers interact and play our rooms.
Cool. And yeah, as far as us for keeping puzzles, et cetera, unique, we do a lot of what we like to call treasure hunting, where we just go to old antique stores, et cetera, find old pieces of furniture that is very unique, or whatever it may be, like these beer bar taps, whatever it is, and basically hack it into some kind of electronic or prop that we can use for it. So we just try to keep it unique in that aspect by just finding things you can't find anywhere else.
But does that make the puzzle unique, is my question? Or is it just the prop? Because you can put 4 things in a sequence, and you can put 4 completely different things in a sequence in a differently themed room, but it's the same puzzle.
Yeah, generally we'll look for things that aren't just like statues that you're putting in order, just.
I'm using
unique,
that as an example,
yeah,
though.
Yeah. But just unique things that you could then, you're not going to see in every day. You can't go on Amazon and order this piece. It's not something you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Just.
Yeah, but, the other thing too is it's not, it's great. You have 4 objects you put in order, but how do you figure out that order? There is a puzzle that needs to be
Clue
developed.
content.
Right, exactly. So there is a process of puzzles that need to be solved in order to then produce the items that you need to solve. So.
I tend to develop my puzzles in reverse order. One of the big things we strive for in escape rooms is that wow moment. That moment where if you're watching a team, you can see the light bulb come on over their head, and it's a great fun moment for all the players to come together and realize that they've solved something. So, what I try to do is I try to do the reverse of that. So here's what I want players to accomplish, and then which props or locks or clues can I put in order to get people to that fun moment? Because if any of you have played escape rooms before, you're probably going to remember those wow moments, the moment that you all discovered something or that you made a strong link to a puzzle that you had been working on. So that's the way that we try to do it.
I say that everybody has a different way to present their puzzles, and one of the things that we focus on is we all play escape rooms, so it's not like we don't experience each other's puzzles or other puzzles that are similar. One of the things that we try and do is to give you a different variation, or hide the puzzle, or not the puzzle, but hide the prop. So the puzzle is embedded inside of something, which is what Jeff was talking about, going out and finding some cool stuff and altering that and making it a prop that's interactive. This way you come across a standard desk, and to you it looks like a standard desk, but our clues will lead you up to the reality that it might be something more than just a standard desk that we've created. So we try to be immersive, hide as much as we can, and lead you to that through the puzzle process.
I think there's some merit in what Skip was saying, in the same way as with films you say there's no new stories out there, but it doesn't mean that there aren't new ways to tell the story, new ways to experience it, and the goal, I think the goal for a lot of us is to create new and unique puzzles, or try our best to adapt it and make it new and put it in theme, make it fun.
Cool. Where do you guys see the escape room industry in the next 10 years? And I guess at the same question, where do you guys see your businesses in the next 10 years?
For us looking long term, we're kind of gearing, what our locations are generally in historic buildings, one of them being the Old Corner Bookstore. So we've had themes that are based on real businesses, for example, an apothecary that's actually been in that building. So for us, we're kind of gearing towards almost more of an interactive museum type thing. But I really have no idea where it's going or where we'll end up, but I'm here along for the ride.
I think things are going to get more immersive, more extreme. definitely, there's a trend now to put actors in to interact with and start to really help customers really submerge themselves in the story and the characters and the puzzles. We're actually playing now with sort of live theater puzzle experiences. So we've got a 3-hour puzzle event hidden in a wedding. So it's called Keep Your Garter On, Keep Your Garter Up. And so
They're
it'll be a
both
really
hard.
fun event where people actually buy tickets and you're gonna go to a wedding and there'll be the wedding, but there will be clues and puzzles that you'll have to solve going through the event. Actors you'll have to interact with and run around, find things, solve things, find out all the secrets, and try to solve the ultimate mystery of this wedding at the end of it. So I think there is a trend towards these larger type puzzle events, towards having actors and really creating a more immersive experience.
Yeah, I'd like to say that from our perspective, because we build not just the traditional escape room models, but also mobile units. We do high throughput interactive attractions for amusement parks, family entertainment centers, and things like that. Interactive, real life amusements are not going anywhere. Disney's putting it into the Star Wars park. You see, the novelty factor that we have in the society that we're in, of being able to go out and pay a premium to put down your cell phone and your tablet and the screens that govern our lives and actually physically interact with something in a movie quality set or whatever the case may be, is now something that everybody is excited about. I don't know how old the rest of the guys and the girls on the table are, but I'm 42 and I still remember when we ran around outside as kids and didn't have cell phones and stuff like that, and going and swinging from trees and crawling through the mud and stuff was just
What's
part
mud?
of the process. Yeah, exactly. What's mud, right? We used to
Never
eat
heard
it.
of such
Yeah,
things.
we used to eat mud by the handful.
That explains a lot.
Snapchat the
But
mud.
now,
That's what we'd have for dessert.
if you would like that experience, you can go and pay $100 to go and do a Spartan race at a Tough Mudder, and they will be happy to take your picture looking more badass than you probably are in real life. And you can post it onto Facebook and get that validation, right? So, it's all part of that movement of making people feel alive again, and that's really what I think everybody up here is focused on. So.
I'm going to add to that. There was a lot of talk. A lot of people ask, when's VR going to be added to an escape room? When's AR going to be added to escape rooms? The reality of it is we've been experimenting with it for the last 6 months. AR, we've been working with a company to put together a true 100% AR experience, and it's tricky. I think there is a place for AR and some of that technology in the rooms, but you really need the right theme for it. You really need the right, the right experience to put that together. And I think Skip's right. There is a place where people just want to disconnect and interact with other people one-on-one or in a group setting, and just remove that technology component from your lives completely.
Yeah, I think somebody smarter than me once said that escape rooms, as far as goes with immersive entertainment, are basically in the cave painting stage. Like, where it's going to go from here, nobody can really tell. And that whole where's your business going to be in 10 years, that's like the worst job application question that I've ever heard. And I didn't like answering it then, and I don't like it now.
I'm leaving.
But as far as escape rooms goes, when it comes to immersive entertainment, the other guys called it as well. People are, craving something where you can disconnect from your phones, interact with people, work together as a group, and so something like that is going to be around for a long time. The way I see escape rooms going is it's probably going to be a higher value, higher barrier to entry. But it's also going to mean, increased ticket prices. So I think as far as the little guys like us, I don't know how long we're going to be around. I don't know if it's going to be 10 years, but there's always going to be a market for something like that. If you're traveling to another city and you're looking for something interesting to do, and all of a sudden you can go and break out from King Arthur's court or do something entertaining like that, there's always going to be a market for immersive entertainment as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and if you take, if we have any of the cues taken here in the States from what has occurred overseas with escape games, then some really crazy stuff will come down the pipeline to us. If you go over into Eastern Europe, go into Russia, I think Moscow has over 1,000 individual rooms and games in the greater Moscow metropolitan area. And they're so cutthroat and so saturated that they constantly have to keep upping the immersiveness. So they use tons of live actors. They have extreme horror themed escape experiences over there that would probably never pass muster in the United States. They also have rooms where you physically are encouraged to destroy certain parts of the room, which is something that in the United States none of us want to deal with. But they're basically having people knock through a wall with a sledgehammer, and then they've got a team that goes in and puts another sheet of drywall up before the next group comes through. So hopefully we won't have to do that because people destroy our rooms as it is. But
I'm gonna say,
You
I
guys
think
would be
a little
okay
more
if we
lax.
released, poisonous snakes into the room while you're in there, just
Right.
just for fun, just to, up the ante a little bit. Yeah.
Why'd it
I
have to be
think there's definitely
snakes?
some parts of the world where they're a little more lax on the building regulations and the fire codes, so I don't think we're going to get that far here.
hopefully not.
You can travel for it. I think that we're definitely headed in a path of creativity of the mind. Really, for the future of escape rooms, it all depends on how far ahead we can think and create. So there is really no limitation. There isn't really an answer that you can see now. We'll see in 10 years, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think escape rooms are still going to be around in 10 years, which I might be shooting myself in the foot for saying something like that. But it's something that ever since the birth of it, this is probably a trend. So all of us, our business owners, have been trying to figure out ways how to keep it alive, and we all have different ideas of ways that can go about, make it more into immersive theater, into puzzle hunts, maybe more of an interactive museum. It's just in 10 years, it might not look how it does today, and there might not be as many.
Yeah, the bar has definitely been raised dramatically in the last 2 years here in the States. I think the days of being able to go and find yourself a small vacant office space and kind of buy several $100s worth of stuff from Pier 1 Imports and go, awesome, it's a pirate escape. You can charge you $30 a head or something like that are done. People are coming in and they want that immersive pirate escape, which they can find at my good friend Jeff's place right down the street.
Absolutely.
Shameless plug right there.
All right, so at this point, we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, grab the closest microphone to you, not mine.
Actually.
We got microphones on both sides, so
All right.
you guys
You're
can
there,
queue
Nick.
up.
Go for it.
So you were talking about incorporating all 5 senses into your rooms. You talked about having a good soundtrack. Do you guys ever experiment with incorporating different smells into the room as part of the puzzles?
I'm going to repeat your question.
Sure.
Cool. Incorporating all 5 senses, do you ever think about incorporating smell puzzles or other puzzles that are incorporated by
Yeah,
taste?
I've played rooms where they've incorporated smells, having to smell things, identify smells. I think it's been frustrating from the feedback I've been hearing from other people that have played those types of puzzles, trying to identify those smells and actually do puzzles like that. I haven't had anybody lick anything in our rooms yet, so I'm going to
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
stick with 4 senses.
What the hell is that
maybe.
guy doing?
Yeah, I'd say, we're constantly needing to strike a balance, between, all the grand ideas that you come up with. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night or something, and the realities of building a actual, public venue that's accessible to everybody and that is safe to everybody. And one of the issues that you have dealing with scent, and I know this because I spent 20 years prior to the escape game industry as a haunted house designer, worldwide, is that when you bring scents into play, there are a lot of people out there that are very, very sensitive to any type of odor, any type of vapor. A lot of asthmatic issues come into play. So it's kind of something that on our end we are staying away from and cutting it down to pretty much the sight, sound, and touch thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of different kinds of smell puzzles, but you can definitely incorporate smell into the atmosphere. Like if you were to do like a Christmas
like-
room have like gingerbread.
Yeah, like a movie theater
cookies and-
themed room that smells like popcorn, or if you're in a like a jungle theme, it have the smell of like plants and stuff like that. That's probably, when it comes to actually involving scent in the puzzles, that's a little bit of a tricky one.
Yeah, and if you're like me and have like terrible sense of smell, you're gonna hate that puzzle.
Thank you for the lovely panel. I actually have two questions, if I may. One question is, so this is from personal experience. I have not found a lot of escape rooms that are sort of geared more towards the couples market, so just 2 players. What are your opinions about that? Is that ever going to be a thing where you don't have to buy all 5 slots in order to have a couple play? Are there going to be any experiences that are designed just for 2 people, so on and so forth? The second question is actually about accessibility. I know that some escape experiences contain a lot of physical activity, going underneath things, crawling, or like climbing up on stuff. What do you think about that? Is that going to just grow? Are people outgrowing the just mental parts and want to be more physically active in the rooms, or where is that going?
So there are a couple of different types of interactive amusements on the spectrum right now. And there is a facility here in the Boston area called Bodaborg. It comes from Sweden. All right, yeah, you guys can, give a little hand for that. And they do a lot of pure physical, high failure rate challenges in their facility. But it's not a pure 1 hour traditional escape room type of thing. My feeling as a designer is that if you are going to design a room that has any crawl spaces in it, any physical obstacles in it, those can be great immersive factors to put in, but you must put in some sort of workaround path for full accessibility, ADA compliance, so that if somebody is mobility restricted, they're able to move around through an alternate path, join their group on the other side of that crawl space, or that cargo netting or whatever it is that they put in there for the folks that can enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree with Skip on that 100%. But to address the issue about 2 people, honestly, I've played a lot of games alone with Nicole, and we don't play well together. We generally need at least a 3rd person to mediate for us. It's really difficult. I love smaller games. We built the retreat, and that's our smallest game for up to like 5 people. But especially in a space downtown Boston, it's really hard, when you're looking at the price per square foot, it's hard to capitalize on a room that's built just for 2 people. So I would love to do it, but rent prices need to come down a lot in our location to be able to justify pulling that off.
Yeah, in other countries, the private booking model is the standard. If you go to Europe and play a game over there, if there's 2 people and they book into the room, they just close off the room. But as Jason was saying, fiscally, in the United States, for most business operators, especially in a major market, public bookings are the only thing that really makes sense.
Sorry.
I was going to say, that being said, there actually is an escape room in the Boston area that has a 2-person room. If you want, we can talk to you outside and plug their name. But as the other one said, it's designed to be a group experience. It's designed so that you and strangers can walk into a room not knowing anything about each other and not knowing anything about the game, and then come out being like the best of friends. And as Jason said as well, I have played exactly 1 escape room with just me and my girlfriend. It'll never ever happen again because we did almost kill each other. And we're both great at escape rooms, and we do travel as well. And so if that 2-person model existed, we probably wouldn't do it when we travel either. When we go to other places, we try to find games where we can jump in with other players because, we're Americans. We're friendly. We like to get along with each other, and we have shared goals, which is, in this case, to get out of a room in a short amount of time.
I'm also proud to say that the Drunk Tanks ended 2 relationships now.
That you know of.
It is not a good first date idea, guys. Don't be the Tinder guy who brings a different girl every weekend to try to pretend like he's smart.
That does happen.
I'm so good at this. I don't know how it happened.
No,
All that
that's a
being said,
terrible,
we do,
terrible
we
idea.
did create some games that are bigger spaces. We have a couple side rooms that, in the long run, we are looking to develop a couple 2 to 6 person games that's feasible to do for 2 people, and hopefully foster relationships and not end them.
Yeah, and as far as accessibility goes, feel free to contact any of us up here or any escape room that you see if you have mobility issues or if you have a wheelchair. I know that my facility is designed from beginning to end that you can roll a wheelchair entirely through it. Some are and some aren't, but again, they're not going to be too worried about getting that question. So if you have someone who can't do a lot of physical activity, I've had 93-year-old players in my room. They're not going to be running upstairs or doing jumping jacks or climbing through little holes. So it's more for the puzzle experience. But again, I can only speak for myself. When it comes to each facility, feel free, if you have mobility issues or any accessibility issues, give them a call. Tell them what your situation is, and if they're like us, they'll work with you whatever way it is. Or if the facility doesn't work for that, we'll send you to one of our friends.
Exactly. I've been playing around with the idea of designing a room for couples. It's really hard figuring out how it's gonna make sense price-wise, because also a lot of two-person teams that like just playing just the 2 of them, they have trouble with the raising of the costs as well. So it's like this huge balance. Me and my partner are fighting about it. So maybe in the future, but in the far future.
Yeah, keep in mind that most escape rooms, each game has a game master. Mm-hmm. And if we're paying that game master for a couple's room, then the cost is changing drastically on our side too. However, if we do have space, we do have different style games, puzzle games and stuff. We've been recently discussing the same topic about creating a 2-person room, because we have a side room that might really work well for that situation. We have a game that might work for it as well. But other than that, that's pretty much the gist of the 2-person escape room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta lower this a little bit. Hi, my name's Natalia. I'm actually a teacher, and one big thing, just a suggestion that might help you a lot. There's a huge initiative, at least in New Jersey, for escape rooms in education as a way for students to get away from a desk, move around the room, and work together as a team. And there are places online where you could sell an idea for an escape room. You find a standard, and then a teacher will happily pay you, basically, to get the materials that they would print out themselves. So that might be a way for you to kind of expand your market a little bit, and then get a greater audience. One problem I see as a teacher is that a lot of times when we play games, it's very review-based. It's okay, you know this, we went over this, it's time for a test, let's get together and let's just do some things like where you line up the statues according to Alexander Hamilton's plan for a national bank. Is there a way you think that people could get together and students can, like, instead of a lesson, instead of a lecture, instead of reading something with questions at the end, they could actually come together and figure it out themselves? Do you think there's a way for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a big resource of teachers around the entire country that are collaborating and building entire curriculums around escape rooms. It's called Breakout EDU.
It's open source.
Yeah.
It's basically,
Completely free.
so if you're looking for, Alexander Hamilton statue heights, chances are someone has built puzzles and themes all around that. And it is, they're all trying to tackle the same purpose that you're trying to tackle. Our job is, entertainment for the masses, for, groups of people. It's a completely different challenge to design it for students. And so that's why there's a huge resource of teachers out there around the country that are, K through 12 working on breakouts rather than escape rooms so I think you can definitely find some of the info there.
And as new generations of teachers, there's some teachers that are older and set in their ways, and they're trying to true, but there's a big market for you. Just say that website one more time.
It's Breakout EDU.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I have a question, and my goblin has a question.
Perfect.
Who do you want to hear from first?
Goblin. Clearly.
For sure.
What happens to someone who doesn't escape from the escape room?
They get locked in there forever.
We steal their souls.
Yeah.
Yay!
They turn into goblins.
I am. Oh, that's even better.
Well,
That's like
laugh.
like Labyrinth. Ah!
Well, we try to design our games so that whether or not you make it out in time, whether or not you quote unquote escape in time, you're still going to have a fun time. Part of being a good game master is pushing your team along slightly. Some facilities are different than other ones that require you to ask for help, and if you're too proud to ask for help, you probably will not make it out for sure.
So, sorry. Every venue does differ in regards to this and their beliefs on how it is. For us, we try to design the game so there's one main storyline that basically every team will complete, but then there's side quests that you may not necessarily complete along the way. So there's like bonus puzzles, if you will, that will add to your overall score at the end. But generally, you're going to complete the main storyline and kind of play through that.
I think it's two parts. One is what actually happens, and two is what I would like to happen to people that don't get out of our rooms.
Here we go.
The first part of that is everybody, generally speaking, wants to know where they went wrong. So we do give all of our customers a walkthrough so they can understand where they went wrong, where they succeeded, where they failed. What I wish would happen, well, we have a shovel in our lobby, and
Gumbo.
And you, sir,
Yes,
you and that goblin,
Thank
you
you.
remind me of the babe.
What babe?
The babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
Okay, yeah.
Who?
Now we're
Do
getting
what?
advertised
To remind me of the babe.
Now that I've got my goblin urge out of the way, the one serious question I have is: have you ever thought about doing like chained room type of things, like sort of a dungeon crawl sort of thing, or like a miniature Maniac Mansion kind of deal?
It's funny that you mention that. We have some, I would say, kissing cousin type attractions to the escape room industry that we've been working on over at Wicked right now with a couple of clients. So I can't speak much more to it than that, but look for larger, multi-room, longer premium adventures coming to major markets soon.
You heard it here first.
I'm going to talk on a question just because I heard it earlier today, but they wanted to ask about replayability in rooms.
That's a tough one, for sure. If anybody's played in any escape rooms before, which I'm guessing a lot of you have, generally once you play the game, you know most of the solutions or you know how it's supposed to go, and then you're likely not going to come back and play that theme. That's likely a problem that we've all been working on continuously. One way is with optional goals, as well as Jeff had stated, that there's hidden things or puzzles to solve. As far as changing the endings of the game, depending on how well you do, there are a lot of objective-based games where instead of trying to escape from the room, you're collecting a certain amount of money. As far as replayability, though, that is probably the toughest problem that we face.
Yeah, we've tried tackling that recently. We've come close. We have a game called the Starship Space Rescue, and it lands you in a flight simulator to land the starship at the end, which you could come back and play different simulations with at the end of that game. However, the escape room portion of the game is still the same. So there's still a lot to work on as far as replayability goes, but that's something that we're all interested in tackling at one point or another, I think.
Yeah, the dollhouse has like one puzzle that occasionally changes up. It's the same format, but like within any other game that you might play, you know the structure of it, but you still have to figure out what the answer is to this one kind of thing. But in terms of creating a full replayable escape room, there's a lot that goes into it. You want to create a world that people would want to return to, but also that that they would pay for that again, rather than just go to a whole nother room in all the many escape rooms in Massachusetts.
yeah, it's tough. None of our rooms are designed to be replayed. One of the reasons why we do that full walkthrough with people at the end is to discourage them from coming back and playing it again. My favorite story is this one guy that comes for blind dates on a regular basis, and he plays the same room over and over again with a different date every time.
Yep.
He's really good too.
We've got
You too,
basically
huh?
a wall. Of
Has
his
he settled
photos.
on anyone yet?
No. The last one actually ended horribly. So
See, this guy's a player. Like,
That is not
Legit.
a one-off occurrence either. We I work with owners all across the country, and that is definitely something that happens everywhere. There are a lot of guys out there with that same idea.
got like a
I'd want to know
website
that my
nowadays.
partner would get me out of a box, help solve the puzzles and move forward in your escape.
Mine would leave me locked in there.
shut up, soul.
We're working on something that's not necessarily replayable, but we are going to have 2 different versions for one of our upcoming games, basically a PG-13 or a rated R version. That takes you down slightly different paths for each one. We just switch out a couple props, just triggers a couple things to stay closed for if you do the PG-13. So not necessarily replayable, but
Yeah, we have one eminently replayable room, and it's only because that room is played in complete darkness. You have nothing but your sense of touch and sound to solve the room with, so you really don't have much of an advantage when you come back to attempt it a second time.
So, escape rooms by their nature are not something that are always going to be completed by a team. So what is the process you go to make sure that failing is fun? That when a team loses, they feel like they still had fun, they still feel like it was an enjoyable experience, not that they feel like they wasted their time. Is there a sniff test you go through? What's that process like?
It's a beta test. It's a very common experience for us. We want everybody to have a good time during our games. So immersiveness is extremely important. The more you're immersed, the more you're out of your element. And when we bring you out of your element, we can create an element of surprise. So there's an endorphin release every time you solve a puzzle. And by bringing you out of your element, we can create that release when you solve a puzzle, creating an exciting moment every time. So that's one of the things that some of us, if not all of us, focus on when we're creating the game.
We make sure to put in dings along the gameplay, much like you would find in a video game, so that we start out when we're planning our designs and we say, okay, what are the 7 or 8 really cool things that are going to occur in this room? What are the big solves going to be? And will they have some sort of light effect, some sort of motion effect, some sort of sound effect, all built into it? Will a wall retract into the ceiling? Will this thing come floating up out of nowhere? So that they're getting that feeling of small victories consistently throughout the room, so that even if they fall short of that one big ding at the end, they at least feel like they've been progressively making their way through and leveling up. And again, that's the video game influence on what we do.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is sort of having a good diverse puzzle set. Our drunk tank is about an 18% success rate, so more often than not you're going to fail. But with that said, it's got a really good diverse set of puzzles, so everybody in that team has a chance to shine somewhere, has a chance to achieve and accomplish something. So at the end of it, even though they failed, they've had a really good time, and they had a really good time together.
And for me, as a player, I think a big thing is having an actual failure sequence. So, you win something, there's something cool that happens,
Yep.
but if you fail, if there's something that lets you know you fail, let's say the walls close in on you or whatever it may be, obviously not that grand, but an actual an actual failure
I'll build it for you.
sequence that is cool in its own,
Yeah, if a game is only fun if you escape, I kind of question how fun that game is. It should be about the journey throughout the whole game. You should be having fun.
We have a quick, yeah. All right, we got 15 minutes.
Not just for you.
You have 15
No,
minutes.
all right, you guys got 15 minutes. Fine. Just to speak to the failure state thing being fun, one of the things that we like to do is blast people with fog or have some kind of crazy siren go off. And I won't even talk about the thing that we got here. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll try to keep mine quick. I'm planning a Halloween-style escape room for my D&D group. And how do you guys, deal with your time management? So, most rooms are, for 45 minutes to an hour, but we normally play for 2 hours. How would I space it out so we could get 2 hours worth of stuff without just cramming a shit ton of puzzles into it?
I think puzzles harder.
Yeah, I think what you can do, an old trick in the book would be to make a puzzle and then add another step to it, and then another step, another step. That would pad your puzzles out. Or you could probably meet some awesome tabletop gamers here and have them come and test your game. And if a couple groups end up making it around the 90-minute mark, you may want to decrease the time. You could also build in audio or video to space it out. There's a lot of different options for that.
I think it also depends on your puzzle types. When we go through our beta testing of new rooms, we've got a stopwatch. We want to see how long it takes everybody to solve something. So obviously, if you've got more challenging puzzles in there, that'll eat up more time, and quicker ones kind of gives it a bit more diversity and keeps it flowing.
Another thing that could work well is like mini cutscenes, if you will, where you have like an actor role presented into it, where someone just does like a little thing. It'd be a couple minutes, but I could space it out a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Hello, my name's Anthony. I actually, I'm not going to plug the place, but I work for a free roam VR place in Woburn. A lot of
I see the shirt.
a lot of the things and the problems that it seems like you guys were having, as you guys were talking about, is limitations on puzzles and limitations to creating the immersive environment. I feel like a lot of it could actually be addressed with some sense of VR and creating that sense of immersion. So my question to you guys is, why do you guys feel or don't feel that like VR is not the answer or the way that escape rooms could be going in the future?
For me personally, I like escape rooms because, like Skip was saying earlier, they get you out, they get you away from screens, they get you in a real world environment. So it's fun putting all that down to me for a little bit, interacting with a real physical prop that's in front of you. But I can see it from both sides too, because you could turn that physical prop into something magical, but just like taking it out of the virtual world.
I know your boss, by the way. I'm not going to. I'm going to tell him you did a good job. By the way.
Good work.
For
good
not
work.
not plugging the business. No, absolutely. I've been to your place before. You're going to get a lot of gamers. Gamers love VR. I mean, it's new. It's interactive. I get groups of 65-year-old book club. People. I don't. It's different markets. It's different styles. We've had people pull us aside after a game and say, this is the first time that I've been with my kids in a year and a half where they haven't been on their phones. And so, like I said before, immersive entertainment is in cave paintings right now with, introductory VR and escape rooms and stuff like that. Who knows where it's going to go? I'm thinking they're complementary, but they're definitely different.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest goals is to make the actual immersive experience a reality experience for us.
I think VR is a tool, so it can absolutely be used, but I really like tangible puzzles as well.
I mean, there are companies that have tried building VR escape rooms. Thanks, Tina. There are VR escape rooms that have been built. It's just not quite there yet at the moment because a lot of it relies on interacting with other people, and the VR kind of removes that interaction a little bit. So, yeah, eventually, maybe one day when the technology kind of catches up a little bit more, but for the time being, I'm going to STFU.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah. My question kind of goes off of the gentleman that was here before me. It just always strikes me like how well calibrated everything is in an escape room, that like the puzzles naturally lead into each other. And I was just wondering, like, what does your playtesting process look like, and like how many different groups of people do you have play test it in order to see, like, is this puzzle going to get finished at the same time as this for them both to feed into this? And also, what's the ideal % success rate that you're shooting for?
That's good.
I've been known to have 3-hour-long beta tests. The very first one or the first couple are like 3 hours, hour and a half long. But from there, we learn how to condense things and how to kind of create more patterns that psychologically tells like a person, hey, this probably matches with this puzzle. Maybe like there's something missing here. Like where's this? All this information, how do we put this together? So it takes like a lot of practice and a lot of like rearranging the puzzles and creating that story and that and sometimes I like to go in the room just by myself and like kind of walk through it and pretend that I have no idea what's going on, even though obviously I do. But I go in there, I'm like, hey, I wonder why there's a camera just standing right there. That's kind of odd. So maybe I'll go over here. But like trying to put myself in the mind of the future customers.
Yeah, for us, it's a lot of beta testing. We put a lot of groups through it to try it, and they know they're there for beta tests. We have a page on the website for people to sign up. So it's a really good group of people that'll come in for us, and they'll suffer through no air conditioning and frustrating puzzles and poorly printed stuff. But it's all play testing. We'll see how long things take, and then we'll condense things and refine them from there. With regards to my preferred success rate, I like to see people fail. So if I can keep it under 20%,
What a nice guy.
that'd be great. I know there are different philosophies on this.
Yeah.
Some owners do they want people to succeed, so they've got a higher success rate. Basically, everybody succeeds. For me, the sweet spot is about 20%, but everyone gets within 2 minutes of success.
Yeah, that's more important almost, is that everybody comes within spitting distance.
Thank you.
Hi, so I come from the live action roleplay community, and we have actually, our game in particular integrates a lot of escape room style puzzles. For example, one this last weekend which involved the In the Dark style tangram puzzle, which was a lot of fun. So in addition to things like the Breakout EDU, are there any other collaborative tools for people that are either in the tabletop role-playing game community or possibly in the LARP community to help collaborate and create new ideas, new ways to create puzzles that could work both in a commercial game environment as well as something like a live action role-play environment?
There are a ton of Facebook groups. There's an escape room owners group. There is also escape room technology and props group that is, all people just helping each other with puzzle concepts and how to build different types of cool props and things like that. So there are, definitely resources out there. There's like definitely a half dozen groups specifically that, are all in that information sharing mode for you.
I would say those are more for like escape room industry people, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Facebook group for exactly what you're talking about.
And if not, you can start it.
Yeah, be the first one.
We'll Kickstarter it.
Yeah.
Right here. No, I mean, it's, live action roleplay crosses over into immersive entertainment, just like that. And there's, a countless number of players, and a lot of them are really smart. So you could probably collaborate with some people and come up with some puzzle ideas, or you got the wheels turning for me, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Hey, so I came representing one of the original escape rooms, Mist, and it's
Yes!
still working
Woo!
looking book, so it actually plays a video on it.
That's
and
awesome.
everything. Also doubles as a hidden compartment, so
Not
always
hidden
works.
anymore.
But yeah, so one of the things that I haven't really seen in many escape rooms that I've done is a mechanic that teaches you something that you continue to reuse throughout the puzzles. So Riven's a perfect example of that, in that very early on in Riven, you go into a school, and in that school there's a children's game that you play. And playing that game for a long time actually teaches you the Riven number system, which is a very different, it's not just a one-for-one swap like a lot of puzzles tend to do. It's an actual full-on unique number system. And it teaches you that. And then further, you have to extrapolate from there, because it only teaches you 1 through 10. You have to figure out how to do higher than that, which isn't actually just saying 1, 1 anymore. It's actually saying a completely new number. And I loved the way they used that, and then that came back over and over and over again throughout Riven, where you actually had to use those numbers in different ways. And I would just like to see that more in escape rooms.
We do that at my game. It's subtle enough that you may not notice that you're doing it. For instance, in one of my games, you have to put something in a specific location to get something to work. If you don't get it in that specific location, it might still work, but later on you're going to have to do something similar, and it'll draw you back to that. That's another challenge with design and trying to teach players on the fly while they're running around solving puzzles. So a lot of times we have players that are learning these concepts, but it's layered underneath all the puzzle solving, so you may not notice it as it's happening. We only get an hour at a time, whereas Riven's probably taken 32, 65 hours to complete.
Yep. A day.
fast question. You mentioned the more lax codes overseas. Has there ever been an occasion where you came up with a room and inspectors came in and said, no, too dangerous?
Actually, yeah, we originally started handcuffing people and chaining them to a wall. We still do, but we actually have an emergency release system. I was in the construction business before this, so I was familiar with the codes. But that was definitely one of the first things that the inspector came over to see until we showed them a quick release that we came up with.
I'll be honest. It's such a new industry. Standards really haven't been set, so it's best judgment for some things, and it's extrapolating what other industries have done and going off of them. So, it's common sense. You don't handcuff people to a wall.
Don't do what Michael's doing.
Without an emergency release.
So no poisonous snakes? Okay.
All right, thank you.
So I've done puzzle rooms with a couple friends who will see a clue when they just go the exact wrong direction and just take the group off the rails. And my friends are pretty smart, I feel like. I'm kind of curious if you guys have any stories about groups just going completely off the rails while you watch on the camera and shake your heads.
That's my favorite type of group.
All the time.
It's when the
Yeah,
loudest
absolutely.
voice in the room is the most wrong. It's brilliant to watch. I think our worst team were 6 PhDs that walked in, and they all had the exact same way of approaching a problem and thinking about it. There was no diversity in thought process. I mean, they're very sharp guys, but they kept thinking themselves into this one box, and they couldn't get themselves out of it to save their life.
Accountants
They
do
were
that
by
too.
far our worst team ever.
Not exactly, exactly what you're saying, but a lot of times we have kids who come in with their families, and the kids will be on the right track, but the parents will be ignoring them and say, "No way, that's it." So we've
All the
actually given
time.
in clues
Kids are really
that are like,
good,
"Hey, listen
actually.
to your daughter, or listen to your son," and the kids love that. They're like, "I told you." But so it's kind of similar,
We had a play tester in our prison escape early on who was frustrated at the fact that the rest of the group wasn't paying attention to him. So as we're watching on the cameras, this gentleman initially takes off the prison orange top that we provide everybody with, and he's got just a tank top on, and we said, that guy's really getting in character. And I looked away from the camera for a little while, and then looked back, and he had no clothes on. None whatsoever. And was just waiting to prank his team who had, cast his logic aside. And then, after doing so, continued to play the game naked.
Thank you for leaving us with that picture.
Yeah, thanks for that.
That was the exact answer I wanted to hear.
So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut it off. We've already been given the time warning a couple times, but thank you very much for coming. Want to thank Tina and Karen for filming. Want to thank the PAX team. I already got cut off.
They really did cut
You
us
guys
off.
have questions? These guys